literally drove our marriage to the end. Hello, sir. I just wanted to send the story of how my marriage ended and how messed up it was. Please don't use my name as per my email address if you plan to do a video on this, which you have my permission to do so. The beginning. In 2007, I met my soon-to-be wife at a party for my best friend's upcoming wedding. She was a new co-worker of his fiancée. She was a cutie, and she approached me. We talked for a while before she left. I really liked her and asked her on a date a week later through my best friend's fiancé. It was the best date I had ever been on, and we quickly started a relationship soon after. I fell for her hard because we shared the same messed up sense of humor and we had some real passion for each other. I met her sister, who she was very close with, and she approved of me, which I found weird, but I was cool with it. This was because of something serious my ex confessed to me soon after. She was bipolar and was institutionalized in her early 20s, and her family was very protective of her. There is mental illness in my family, so I thought I knew how to deal with it. She was on the proper meds, so I never would have known if she wouldn't have told me. Messed up sense of humor aside, she seemed totally normal and well adjusted. This admission will come into play later on. By the end of the third month of dating, I had moved in with her and her sister. By the end of the year, I had proposed to her. I was absolutely in love with her, and she with me. We moved fast, but I thought I was sure. We talked constantly about growing old together and all that mushy stuff. I met her mom and dad, both divorced and married to other people, and they loved me. I was especially good friends with her mom. My parents, married for 40 years at that point, adored her. Everything seemed so perfect, and I couldn't see how life could get any better. We married a year later, and I can honestly say that it was the happiest day of my life. To this day, she still says this too. Married life. The next 3 years were magical. We just enjoyed our life and each other. My sister got her a job as a secretary that paid quite well, and I got promoted within the company I worked for and was making good money. We then bought a house off her mom. We had a white picket fence for freak's sakes, but this was when the trouble started. We were essentially house broke. We couldn't afford anything extra, which saw us just playing cards and getting drunk with each other on weekends, which I loved. She wasn't good with money and was using her credit card for stuff we couldn't afford. We always paid our bills, but she was racking up her credit card more and more. I made a lot of sacrifices, abandoning a lot of stuff I enjoyed to stay afloat. And I mean this in buying stuff I liked. I was a comic book collector at the time. I then started taking the bus to and from work to cut some corners. In hindsight, I should have put my foot down about her spending, but I always figured we'd just get through this financial rough patch. We never did, due to my ex's spending. During this time, my ex was making friends at her job, especially a girl named Kim and a male coworker we'll name Spencer, because I freaking hate that name. Before this, she didn't have any friends other than her sister because of her mental illness. She didn't trust anyone and was very selective who she let into her life. She got close to Kim, and we even would hang out with her and her husband on weekends. She'd also talk to Spencer at work and have lunch with him, which she was forthcoming with, but we never hung out with him outside of work. I met him a couple times. I didn't really care because this guy was of the wimpy sort and, not to be a D, wasn't very attractive. I didn't see him as a threat. It wasn't until I caught her in a lie that I put a stop to their friendship. The body exhibit was touring across North America and was in our city. We both wanted to go see it with all those chopped up bodies and crap, but we had to save up to do so. One Saturday, she was asked to work overtime at the office, which my sister verified to be true. She went in and came home a few hours later. I thought nothing of it. It wasn't until a few weeks later that her sister said we should go to the body exhibit together that my ex let out that she had already been to it. With Spencer after the overtime on that past Saturday, he paid. I was pissed. I asked her straight up, "What the F is it between you two?" She said there was nothing there but friendship and that she thought he was gay. I was so mad she lied to me about it, and I told her I would have been okay with it if you just told me. I told her she had to cut him off, and she did. My sister kept an eye out for any shenanigans, and my ex kept her word and distanced herself from him. This was the first lie that she told me that I knew of. It sure as crap wasn't the last. Now, my ex was a really personable and charming girl when she gets comfortable, and the higher-ups at her job, my sister being one of them, noted this. They offered her a position as an assistant to one of them. This meant more money for us, but it came with some unforeseeable problems. My ex needs structure, or she becomes agitated, and this new job had none. It drove her nuts, and she became unhappy. She would drink 1 or 2 beers before work just to be able to go to work every day. She wanted to step down to secretary again, which I encouraged, but the money was just too good, so she just continued being unhappy. Around this time, too, my ex was messing around with her meds. More of this and a little less of that, playing around to make herself feel less stressed out. This made our sex life drop off quite a bit, from a few times a week to a couple times a month. She also had spells of erratic behavior, but nothing directed towards me, but it was noticeable. We never fought that much, but she would unleash her anger on others when she thought she was being wronged in some way. This led to her stealing a dog. The stealing of a dog. Now, let me explain this dog stealing. She happened upon a dog in an alleyway while walking her sister's dog while her sister was away. This dog was chained and duct taped to a fence by the neck. The dog was emaciated and obviously abused. My ex has a huge soft spot for animals, working as a vet tech, and fostered cats for years before we met. She told me about this dog, and we called animal services, hoping the city would rescue this dog. My ex called me at my work a couple days later. This was pre-cell phone days, which I vowed never to get, but that will come into play later as well, which she's never done, saying she was going to pick me up after work. I knew something was up, and I had a feeling she stole that dog. When she showed up after work, I saw her big cute smile and that dog in the back seat. I wasn't mad. I actually thought that this was awesome at the time. She saved this animal from a piece of crap human who was doing wrong by it. We planned on nursing this dog back to health and then bring it to a no-kill dog shelter to be adopted. But she got attached, and we wound up keeping her. I thought it was a bad idea because we were already struggling financially, but this dog made her happy, and I thought this would be the cure for how unhappy she was with her job and our financial woes. This was the catalyst to the downfall of our marriage. Now, I don't give a heck about money. My parents were hippies, and I have lived poor before and made it work. But I was in a relationship and understood that to make our lives work, we needed more money. With the arrival of the new dog, I needed to make more. So I signed up for some special training at my job. This would significantly raise my wages and was what I thought to be the solution to our money trouble. My training was on the day shift, so I got to see and spend time with my ex every day. We took that dog to the dog park almost every day, even in the winter. My ex was obsessed with that dog. That year for Christmas, my parents bought us both a cell phone each. I hated cell phones, still do, but my mom rationalized that it was good for emergencies and whatnot. I honestly believe that this gave my ex the ability to cheat, but we'll get there. After my training for my new position at work, I had to be moved to the afternoon shift, which would see me working later. This sucked because I would be seeing my ex less every day, but it was a lot more money, so I accepted it with the idea that I would get back onto a day shift at some point. My ex would still take our dog to the dog park every day, and she would pick me up from work, a few times a week. This went on for a few months. The end is nigh. Then one Sunday, we were out in the backyard smoking. She was being really quiet that day, and I just chalked this up to the job and her meds and being in one of those moods where I just give her space. She then turned to me and asked me, out of the freaking blue, "Do you feel like we're just becoming roommates?" This felt like a sucker punch. I was like, "What?" She repeated what she said. I said, "No." What the heck? She didn't really make eye contact and just kept smoking. I asked, "Where's this coming from?" She was being vague and not really answering my questions. I then thought, F it, I'm asking, "Are you seeing someone else?" She says, "No, no." I then said, "Let me remind you that if you ever cheat on my Jen, we're freaking done. All this is gone. I will never talk to you again, and you will never see me again." She tries to reassure me that there is nobody, and she just feels confused. Confused. Up until this point, I thought we were good. We had financial problems, but I always said that we'll get through this together and we'll be stronger on the other side. My head was swimming. I needed to talk to someone and went to go see my parents. I told them what my ex said, and they were floored. They didn't have an answer for me because they are old school with how they thought of marriage, and this didn't make sense to them. I didn't bring this up after I got home, and we pretended it didn't happen. A week later, in the backyard smoking again, my ex turns to me and says, "John, I'm feeling really confused right now. I think it's from my job, but I need some time to myself. Do you think you can stay with your parents for a week? I just need some time to think." Mother effer. If I had doubts before that something was up, I had none now. I felt like this was the follow-up right hook after the sucker punch. This felt like a game, and I got my game face on and said as calmly as crap, "Okay, I'll let you know by the end of the week." And then I dropped it. That same day, I found out that a good friend of mine died in his sleep. He was a friend I sort of lost contact with, but I loved the guy. This hit me hard. His wake was that Friday, and I needed to go. I told my ex about it, and that I need to go to this wake. She said, okay. The next day, she said, "I think you should go be with your friends without me. I'm not good at funerals, but I'll give you a ride." I said, okay. When Friday came, she told me she was going to hang out with Kim that night. They were going to meet at the dog park and then watch a movie after. I said, okay. As she was driving there, we sort of got lost because the funeral parlor was outside the city. As she started getting agitated and was getting short with me. She kept saying, "I need to get to the dog park by 8. Where is this place?" At one point I said, "My friend just died. Can you just be cool? I'm sure Kim won't leave you if you're late." She shut up. She dropped me off and sped away. That night I got to see people I haven't seen in years. After the wake, we drank. I passed out at a friend's house and we all went to the funeral, super hungover. I think my friend would have wanted it that way. Ha! After the funeral, I got a ride home. It was around noon and my ex was nowhere to be seen. I tried to call her on her cell phone. No answer. She got home around 3 p.m. I asked her where she had been. She said she slept over at Kim's and they went out for lunch after. I honestly didn't think anything of it, like a dolt I was. All the signs were there, but I was still fooling myself, holding on to hope that nothing bad was happening. Freaking dummy. That week I started noticing the telltale signs. She kept her phone with her like it was glued to her hand. She was texting a lot, but would quickly slip it into her pocket when she noticed me coming. My spider sense was more than tingling. It was gonging. The Wednesday of that week, she agreed to pick me up from work. I reminded her that morning before she left for work that she needed to pick me up. She agreed. After work, she was late. I tried calling her. No answer. I texted her, "Where you at?" Nothing. Another 20 minutes and I tried again and nothing. I started to walk to the bus stop, which is a 15-minute walk. On the way, I called again. She finally answered. You can tell she was outside, assumed she was at the dog park still. I asked where she was. She said she can't come and apologized. Very vague and was talking quietly, like she didn't want to be heard. I was mad. I yelled at her, saying that I would have taken the bus instead of waiting. Now I'll be home in 2 hours. It was far away from our house. I said, "Have fun," and hung up. When I got home, she was there. She apologized profusely. I just said, "Don't worry about it," and went to bed without saying another word. She crawled into bed and tried to snuggle with me, but I turned my back to her. She said she was sorry, but I pretended that I was sleeping. I wasn't, and I didn't sleep very well that night. The next day, I pretended to be asleep so that I didn't have to say goodbye to her before she left for work. I was still mad. She texted that she was going to pick me up after work that night, and I said, "Don't worry about it. I got a ride." She texted me, "Are you mad at me?" I said, "No, I'm good." I wasn't good. I knew something was up. She texted me that she loved me, and I ignored it. I knew tomorrow she was expecting my answer on whether I'd be staying with my parents for a week or not. D-Day. The next day, we were both off work. When I came down the stairs, she greeted me. She apologized again for not picking me up. I said it was fine. She reiterated how she was feeling confused and was wondering if I had an answer for her to stay with my parents for a week. I said, "Yeah, I'll go to my parents." Her eyes lit up and a smile smeared her face. Then I said, "But I need to see your phone first." Her face sank and she came clean. She was seeing some guy she met at the dog park, and I knew exactly who it was. A few weeks before this, my ex was telling me about a guy she met at the dog park. We'll name him Little Man. I knew his dog's name and what this guy did for a living. Again, I didn't think anything about it. A week later, my ex was coming home from the dog park, and I noticed our dog had an open wound on her neck that needed stitches. Our dog was a wild girl and played rough with the other dogs at the dog park. Apparently, she had done that to another dog at the park that night too, the dog belonging to Little Man. She said she needed to pay for his vet bills. I was like, "No, is he going to pay for ours too? I think we're even." She was adamant we needed to pay. I reluctantly agreed. After she came clean about the cheating, I told her she needed to leave for the night so I could digest this situation and needed to leave the phone. My parents gave us those phones so we could be more connected, not for her to use to cheat on me. She locked it and left it on the table. She was packing a bag, and I noticed she was taking a custom shirt I made for her. I grabbed the shirt out of her bag. I told her, "You ain't taking that. You're not freaking him in a present I gave you. What the heck is wrong with you?" Petty, yes, but I didn't care at that point. She took her bag and left. That night, I did a lot of crying. I phoned my dad and told him what happened. I got calls from my whole family. None of them could believe it. It hit my mom the most. She cried as I talked to her. She knew how much I loved her and how much this betrayal hurt me. I got drunk that night and I hacked into her phone. Pretty simple thing when you know the password she uses for everything. I found all her text exchanges. This is where I found out that the first night they did it was after she dropped me off at my friend's funeral. Not at Kim's at all, but at Little Man's house. As I was crying with my friends over a good friend's death, she was getting her back blown out. Apparently, when everything came to light, Kim found out my ex used her as an excuse to cheat on me. They had a falling out over it. Not sure if they ever became friends after that. When my ex got home the next day, I confronted her about everything. She didn't cry about any of it. She looked sad in the way that she felt like she had to, like she was just going through the motions. I told her that I will be moving out in a week to my parents. She said, "Can't you just stay? We can be like roommates." She said that with a smile on her face. No joke. It was at this point that I realized she was crazy. Like legit crazy. Her playing with her meds had made her lose touch about the severity of the situation. The next thing I said out of weakness and a feeling of loss. "I'd stay if you never see him again." I honestly feel shame about saying that, but she answered, "No, I want to see where it goes with him. He wants to take me skydiving and to go camping. How I didn't commit murder after this, I don't know. At this point, it was over for me. There was never going to be a context in which I would ever want her back. I left after a week of awkward and painful living, trying to avoid interacting with her as much as possible. Little man had no idea she was married, but he didn't see a problem with it after he found out that I had left her. Holes usually don't. A week after I left, I needed to pick up some important mail. I told my ex that I was coming at such and such time and that I didn't want to see her. Leave it in the mailbox and I'll just scoop it up. She agreed. When I arrived, I could see her getting ready in the upstairs window from the street. I didn't want to see her, so I sneakily walked up to the mailbox and grabbed my mail. I was looking through it when I saw a truck rolling down the street. One of those obnoxious pickup trucks that small DA holes drive. I thought to myself, maybe this is him. So I stood where I was, sorting through my mail, and waited to introduce myself. He parks, and he comes walking around the side of the house where I was standing. Now in my mind, I was thinking the man she cheated on me with was this tall, handsome, and successful man. Someone better than me in every way, because why else would she cheat on me, I thought. What rambled up was this short, pot-bellied douchebag with a Napoleon complex tough guy look on his face with a crappy tattoo sleeve and 3 cans of Budweiser dangling from his fingers. I almost laughed at him. He comes walking up to me with his head tilted up, trying to look more of threat than what I thought he was, and I say, "Hi." He says hi back with his best hardman voice. I say, "Are you little man?" He says yes. I thrust out my hand and say, "I'm John." He unconsciously shakes my hand with a look of fear on his dumb face. He was like, "Oh, hey, yeah," and then says, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for being cool about all this." I said, "I'm not." Then I walked away. I got an angry phone call from my ex the next day saying that little man was so mad at her, saying he thought she was trying to set him up. I laughed at her. Aftermath. Anyway, I left and didn't pay a cent on a mortgage while I was gone, and until it sold almost a year later. She got into even more debt than when we were married. She had a legal case to get me for money for that, but she never did. She got fired from the job my sister got her for not showing up because she was distraught over her divorce. She didn't realize that she worked with my sister, I guess. I paid for the divorce and she didn't contest anything. 50-50 split. She moved in with little man where he became physically abusive. They had a baby and she left him a year after that. After she left him, my ex got back on the proper dose of meds. Her and her daughter moved in with her mom to start again. The old Jen was back, but she was at the point of realization about what she did. She told me it was like waking from a bad dream and having to live in a new world where the bad dream was still going on. I felt bad for her, but I couldn't go back. Some doors remain closed after you walk through them. I told her that I forgave her, but I couldn't forget what she did. Every year since, she has tried to get back together with me, saying how much she missed what we had and wished she realized what she had when she had it. I even contemplated doing it, but ultimately didn't. I honestly feel bad for her, but what she did will always be something between us. I will always love her, but I think it's okay to love myself more and keep myself safe from that crap. Not saying she'd do it again, but I have enough self-respect to never put myself in a possible similar situation again. This was over 10 years ago. I have become a different man since then, especially how I view relationships. True love does not exist, not in this modern bullcrap world we live in. The morbid self-absorption that people have nowadays makes me not want to interact with it on any level. The relationship that my mom and dad have does not exist in this world anymore, and that sucks. That's what I always wanted, but being older, it's not going to happen now. I just recently ran into these videos and wished to TIF that they were around when all this crap went down. I would be able to see all the signs and would have conducted myself in a better way. I'm happy these young people have this as a resource to navigate this messed world of relationship. So thank you, True Story Man, and good luck to all you broken-hearted people out there. You do deserve love.